Hey guys, and welcome to day 29 of the July Scrapathon. So today's challenge is called textures, and what you have to do is use texture on your layout. So whether it's tissue paper or mixed media or I don't know, any form of texture you would like to use, it's fine by me, it's okay. So today's collaborator is Julia Ainsley, I think is how her last name is pronounced. I probably murdered that, but yeah, her channel name is The Art of Creating, so there will be links in the description below as always. So now if you don't know what the July Scrapathon is, I know July is almost over, and by the time you're watching this, it's probably early August. But you still have 10 more days to enter for the challenges, and the challenges will close on August 10th at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, so CDT, Central Daylight Time, Central Daylight Savings Time. So you still have a couple more days, not a couple, we have more than a week to enter to some challenges if you didn't get a chance to yet. So, yeah, don't forget to check out the April Lilli store as well, because she is having a sale, and it's 50% off the whole store until stock is out. And I believe it's still going on, so just head on over there and check out if there's anything you would like to purchase. I think that's it. Oh yeah, if you don't know what the July Scrapathon is, or maybe I mentioned this, I'm having memory loss, guys, I'm sorry. Okay, so check out my introductory, I don't think I did. Yeah, so don't forget, check out my introductory video and the Facebook group if you would like to participate. They will all be linked below, and all the information necessary is in there in both of those places. So I'll let you watch my process now, because I think I've talked too much already. Okay, so for textures, of course, I'm going to mix media because I love it. So the first thing I did was I took some gesso and I spread it on the page, but not completely, so I did a messy job of it. So half the page is covered, half isn't, and you can see the gesso marks pretty clearly. And that adds a texture to the page, because when I come in to add distress inks on top, where the gesso will look different from where it's not. And then you can also see the gesso marks through that. So it creates a really cool look. I'm not sure if it's very visible on camera, but yeah. So my idea was to use the stencil, because at the time was the only stencil I got. I now have 2 more stencils, which you'll be seeing in a bunch of haul videos coming up soon. So what I did was I pulled a line down there with a pencil to where I was going to put the green colors. So that's where the leaves are going to be approximately, and I don't want the greenish colors to overlap over that too much. So I'm starting off with the packaging technique and some cracked pistachio distress ink, and I'm just adding some water to it and just smooshing it onto the bottom there. And then I'm adding some tumbled glass, and I just want to create some shading looks and make it look fun and cool. So I'm adding more tumbled glass throughout that bottom part, and I've gone over the line, as you can see, but the color concentration is going to be mostly at the bottom. So you'll see how it's going to turn out in just a bit. So at the bottom there, you can kind of see that where the paint went on the paper, where there wasn't any gesso on it. So it's a lot more. So when you have the gesso, the paper doesn't absorb the paint so much, and the color just has a nice concentrated look at the top of it, and you can see the texture behind the gesso. If there's no gesso on the paper absorbs the paint or the ink, and it has a darker look to it, and it just looks a lot different. So when you combine the 2 looks, it creates a lot of texture, and I really like that. So now for the flowers, I was going to do a different color for each one, but I only had 2 other colors other than blue, so I'm going to do 2 red ones and a yellow one. So the red color I'm using is Abandoned Coral, and it's not a bright red, it's like sort of mint, it's a corally color, as you can see. So it doesn't look like blood, and especially once I add the stencil on top, it will look a whole lot better. and the yellow paper, the yellow color there is fossilized amber. So now I decided I want to add some bubble wrap to create more texture because I love how that looks. So I added some yellow distress ink, not the abandoned coral, and I'm just stamping the bubble wrap onto the red color. And then I'm going to take the red one and stamp that onto the yellow one. And that just kind of connects these flowers a bit more and adds just a bit more interest. So now I think it's pretty obvious where there's gesso and where there isn't, especially at the top part. So you can see it's a bit more white and it's just different because the way I added the gesso as well was it wasn't a thin layer and it was very messy. So you can see now that magically a flower has appeared over to the side, and I was a bit impatient and didn't let the paint dry completely, which is something you must make sure to do because otherwise what happened there, as you can see, half of it didn't stick on and then it ripped the paper, is going to happen again. But that's okay for this specific layout because it just adds a bit more texture to it, and if I was smart I would have layered my clusters over on that and it would cover that part up, but I didn't think of it, so you'll see that I covered up the other half of the page. So anyway, I was using a palette knife and just gesso. I didn't use any modeling paste or anything because I don't own it, and I find the gesso has a good enough lift. And you could also use acrylic paints for this. I think that will work pretty well too. So now there's that, and now I've dried everything completely now with a blow dryer because I don't have a heat gun, but I think it works just as well. I don't put it on full force and I don't put it on the highest heat level just because I'm scared to do that. So I put it on about, I think it's the second heat level, and then the lowest possible like energy mode. Okay, so then I pulled out this picture. So I really like how that mixed media work looks at the time being, and I pulled out this picture from my Rome album of us at the Borghese Gallery Park. And then another way I love to add texture is with tissue paper. So what I did is I took that piece of tissue paper that I picked there with the blue polka dot because I thought it looked really cool. And I mean, not cool, it matched with the blue, so I brought the blue that was at the bottom and the bluish green to the top. So I pulled that out, I crinkled it up to add even more texture, and then I folded it a couple of times. And you can see where it's folded and where there's a bunch of layers, and that really adds a lot of texture to a page. So I decided it was about time I used some more of this 6x6 paper pad by Simple Stories that is called Vintage Bliss. And I'm just going through and pulling some things that I might want to add. So one of them was a flower piece that I had cut out of floral paper, and it's already on the layout. And I also added a doily over there to my layout because I think that adds a lot of texture as well. And I was kind of liking the white on white look at the top there. And it was like a quarter doily because I don't have small ones, I just have these huge ones. And I just wanted a small piece of it. So it's kind of like a quarter doily over there, and I know it looks a bit weird, and it would have been much better if I had, I don't know, maybe like a 6-inch doily that would have gone around the whole tissue paper cluster, but it's okay. I like how it looks anyway. So then here's another floral piece that was already cut out for me, and I have that blue one on the one side and the yellow one on the other side. So I decide how I like how this is going. So I just stapled down the tissue paper because it was moving around a lot. And I stapled it together so I wouldn't lose how I had it layered. And now I'm just fussing with those floral pieces. So I added the blue one over to the left and the yellow one to the right. And then I had this chevron piece cut out as well. So I would kind of play around with that for a bit. And I like how it just peeks out at the bottom there like that. It just brings in some more colors like the yellow and the blue and the pink that's in the paper pad. So again, I'm fussing with this doily because it's cut screwy because again it's like a quarter of a huge doily. So I'm trying to layer it behind the photo in such a way where you can't really tell that. You can't really see the harsh edges of the cut. So then I cut out a pink floral as well because I felt like I needed a bit more. I needed another flower, so I cut one over and put it to the right. Now my main problem is that I have blue on one side and yellow and pink on the other side, and I want to have all the colors on each side. So I went ahead and cut a few of these tiny little flowers, and one of them was that blue sort of cluster, which I added over to the right side, and that brings in the blue from the left side. And now I added a tiny flower in pink over to the left side where the blue flower is. And I don't want I want the right side to have more embellishments than the left side. I want that side to be heavier. I don't know why. I just, at that time, that's what I liked. So I don't want this cluster over here to get too overwhelming. At this point, the one side has a heavier effect. Okay. And now I decide I'm just going to glue down this photo because I know that's where it's going to go. And I don't need to have that as a moving around piece as well. And then I glued down the chevron because I like that there as well. And it wasn't going anywhere, so I might as well glue it down. And then I'm going to glue down the tissue paper to the doily because I know that's where that's going to go too. And there's no point of not gluing it down because everything was moving around and I was just getting annoyed. So I'm gluing everything down. I took off the clusters and I'm using this stupid glue again because I was running low on adhesive when I filmed this. Yeah. And then I'm just placing the flowers back, and I decide I'm going to glue down the big flowers too because I know they're not going anywhere either, and I really like how those look there. So I fussed a bit with this side because I was trying to get it exactly as I had it before, but we all know that's not going to happen. So I just fussed with it a bit until I knew it was, until I decided it was okay. It was good enough. So fussing, and then I just decided I'm going to glue it down and be done with it. And now I'm going to add just the tiniest little bit of that blue floral. So I ended up cutting that cluster in half because it was just easier to glue down. And now I'm going to add that little pink one over to the left side. So, yeah. I think the big reason why I didn't want both the left cluster to be really heavy is because in the photo, my mom was way more in front than that bike at the back. So there's a lot more grounding to the picture over on that side. So I felt like I need to kind of balance the thing. So if I added less embellishments on that side and more embellishments on the other side, it would kind of draw your attention to the other side as well, and you would see the photo better. I don't know if I explained that well, but I hope you understand. Okay, so then I cut out some of these bingo cards from the Vintage Bliss paper pad again. And I'm just fiddling with where I want to place them and if I do want to end up placing them. So I have a yellow one over to the left, which brings in the yellow from the floral over to that cluster. And then I just have a neutral gray one on the right. So now I'm going through this chipboard set, and this is the Inspire set. And I am going to use, I'm not going to use that, but I am going to use this set here, which is the kind of travel set, and it had some gorgeous glitter green glitter elements, so I'm incorporating some of that because I really like how it matched on the page. So that one says nature trail, and I thought that was appropriate because we were in a park in nature. There was trees everywhere, and I mean, it's not a complete match. I guess ideally that would have been used on like a mountain hike or something, but it looked good. I liked it, so I'm going with it. And then I thought a bird was appropriate as well, and that is from the Maggie Holmes confetti chipboard. And it pulled in the pink that was in the flower over to the side, over to the on the right, over to the left. And I thought the bird was appropriate because one, we're in a park, And second, we did actually we did see a couple of birds while we were there, and I have a story about that. It's going to be on a different page in my Rome album, but I thought it was appropriate, and I really like that bird, so I thought it was about time I used it. Now I'm gluing down these enamel hearts, and those are from Webster's Pages. I think they're from the Dreaming Color set. And I did need to add some adhesive because they wouldn't stick down on gesso and the paint. A lot of things tend to not glue down completely on gesso and paint. So it's not that the enamel dots were effective or had a problem. It's just that they were being stuck down on gesso, and I had moved them around quite a bit already. Okay, so then I took out that brochure that I had from the Borghese gallery, and I googled the name of this park, and I discovered it was Borghese Gardens. So I just cut out the Borghese part from the green brochure, and then I kind of hand scripted the word gardens. And then I did some splatter. I had this toothbrush on hand from a previous layout, and I just used that because I liked how it splatters. So I just splattered some the glass distress ink and on the page, and that completed it, and I really like how it turned out. So here are some close-ups. I hope you enjoyed the process. Now don't forget to check out Julia's video. There'll be a link in the description below, and don't forget to check out the April Lilli store, which I believe currently has a 50% off sale, the whole store. And make sure to enter the if you participate in the challenge, make sure to enter and join the Facebook group so you can enter to win there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.